I'm not watching Snow White. Nope. Because as you know, this movie has attracted a whole lot of attention for negative reasons both inside and outside of the film, and how a majority of reviews are now out there showing exactly what you would think on the majority of Disney's bad remakes, doing the same exact thing, that I just decided to stay out of it. I really wanted to give the movie a chance even amongst the controversy, but I just couldn't bear to stand against that conversation anymore. And the main reason I decided to do this goes back to the very first controversy this movie had relating to the dwarves themselves. If you remember, the title only speaks of Snow White herself, and not even mentioning the 7 dwarfs in any way, since actors like Peter Dinklage brought negative points of having them even while they're still actually good characters, that now in the final product they backtracked all the way into creating CGI abominations of the dwarfs themselves that completely misses the point of why they did these films in the first place. Remembering other movies that they casted people with dwarvism in their own live action films that were actually real and applied with makeup, but how they decided to do them as fictional creatures to match the original animated film, and that's something I just couldn't stand for. Or also the fact they are continuing to make pointless explanation of characters and why they're a certain way, just like Snow White and why her name is like that, made worse since the casting choices are not like the original, as in not just the film itself, but the actual fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm originally. Where, again, I really do think that Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were not the right choices to cast in this entire film, or just making it overall. And this video is just going to hardly affect anything going forward. Just here to state my own opinion, since I always want to make these videos at the pulse of each major Disney release, since I love the animation films and their theme parks, but also to criticize the decisions that they make that aren't for the best. That the main reason that I created this channel, even though I started out differently with other animated films, was to point out the bad things that they're doing coming from a Disney fan's perspective, even while others are just choosing to blindly hate them when we realize that they have created so many great things in the past, but they just choose not to anymore. But it doesn't stop me from wanting them to do better, because after all, I did make a short video speaking positively about the Lilo & Stitch remake film that's coming out, and I stand by that to watch it, just like Moana and every other remake film, but just sadly not this one. Because if you do know, this video is kind of inspired by the non-review Ghostbusters video by James of Cinemassacre, who did over 8 years ago, speaking of the failed remake that went nowhere and also failed at the box office, where he was simply right in saying, if you're gonna hate something, why actually give your money to it? Like, why should I be interested in this film if I know now it falls into the same problems that the other films had? It just wouldn't be necessarily worth it. Granted, I have said in the past I wanted to review these movies because it's fun for me to painfully watch rather than the rest of the public to watch them miss every single point about the original movies they created, where this one would be no different, and I'm still going to watch the other ones after, but how this particular film feels like I just have to stay away to make a change. That I choose not to watch this and say this because I'd rather not get caught up in the entire discourse of what other videos are going to make about it. That it's just not simply what I'm interested in doing, and I know that type of crowd that's going to eat it up, and I'm just not willing to be a part of that conversation as the point to identify the storytelling world. But this shouldn't stop you from deciding to watch it or not. That's entirely your own decision to make, where you can love it or hate it depending on what you find interesting, as it has proven in the past. Speaking again of the positives of remakes like Cinderella that added in a nice way to complement the original work, as I keep reminding you, where there is a way to enjoy these movies since they are just that, and companies will just continue to make these decisions for easy ways to make profit in this very age. Again, reminding that decisions like this were made because they're gone too far to stop now, and it's up to us to either make them continue or not with their own choices to give them money to entertain. The purpose of all companies or people in this crazy world that just exists the way that it does. Where again, this video is just simply speaking of them doing wrong for a film that really started this very company to what it is today, and even the world of movies overall. Because when Walt created something like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, he wanted to do something that has never been done before. The first full-length feature animation film that people wrote off but actually became a massive success and changed the industry forever. A pioneer that you just can't appreciate since it wanted to create a new form of storytelling that people could enjoy and still do today for its effort of what they could do, even if that story is so simple. But when it comes to something like this and the background of said characters, not regarding any controversy people stupidly attach to since we're so politically inclined, it just makes it a shallow husk of its former self, and I don't want to support that. I respect everyone who created this, even those I disagree with the most, but I just can't respect myself to see it when it amasses this much of hate for its terrible story and divided differences of everyone else. Especially when Zegler did initially perform those weird interviews that felt like she didn't understand the importance of the film as a landmark in cinema overall. But I still will admit I could be open to watch it later later when it comes out on things like Disney Plus, if I plan to review and rank all remakes later on again, but just not now when the fire is burning hot. All these movies just have a feel of being made by a committee and not by any director with their own creative input of what could be anymore, where you just can't justify that. You cannot justify this leadership in charge of the structure of the company anymore, as I pointed out in various videos, where we have to make sure that changes for the better, since again the people who work there are those that I admire, that I want to point out that there is a reason and the passion that exists. Those in the film, the cast members who work every day for the guests, the Imagineers who design the attractions, the animators who bring the characters to life, have a chance to create the things they're the most passionate about, and I want to respect that. Give them the time and tools to be the best that they could be, rather than delegate them to their certain decisions because they think it's popular to speak to one aspect of society off the bones that you already did. But again, you could still criticize me if you think I'm wrong to say this or do anything if I didn't want to watch it, but that's simply my own feelings and I'm going to stand by that. All I can really do is encourage you to do what feels best for your own opinion, where the best thing we can really say is just to move on with life. That this film is just going to exist out there like the rest and we don't have to choose to see it. That, like the original itself, it's just going to be out there for people who do want or do not want to watch it, and that's completely fine. Most of it is up to us to go out to these places to see, and even Disney themselves in branded content will always prop up the original more, since that's where it was and where it always will be regardless. But overall, I would still be gladly happy to be proven wrong, with the chance that this movie could make more money than expected, where Mufasa certainly did more than I thought, because people actually enjoyed the music and a different take since it's a prequel. But how I don't think that's going to be the case here with how much money they spent. The biggest problem at the end of all things happens to be them throwing so much money away when it could have been better spent elsewhere, investing much more than what needed to be. At least by whatever you hear, you probably would still enjoy it over a film like Pinocchio. That is still dogshit trash, where sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all. Anyways, I'm all done.